you didn't see that jump scare coming, did you? Oh, you did? Oh, huh. Well, at least it'll fit this review nicely then. What is up, everyone? Movie back again with another review, and this is going to be for the 2021 film The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, and this is directed by Michael Chaves and stars Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. Now, this tells the story of a young man who is arrested for murder but believes it was a demon that possessed him who committed the act. So it's up to paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren to look into the incident. So it's finally here, and after really enjoying The Conjuring Parts 1 and 2, I was really looking forward to this one. I haven't seen any of the spin-offs, I'm not going to lie, but let's just get into it anyway. I thought this had promise from the start, actually. I was intrigued by the idea of a jury having to be convinced that this demon actually went into this young man and committed a murder. I mean, how they were going to convince that jury is mind-boggling to me, so I was excited to see how this would play out. And the fact that it's based on the true story of Arnie Johnson only made it that little bit more interesting. Of course, it's nice to see Ed and Lorraine Warren back on screen together once again. I feel like they are a really good duo. I always like them in these movies. They're not exactly as memorable as, let's say, Riggs and Mortag from the Lethal Weapon films or anything like that. But I think they have a strong bond on screen together. I mean, they have a really, really good relationship where they can just work together, make these events unfold, and they can't really do it without the other one. So it makes them believable as a couple, if you like, and just works together so well for this movie. You know, they are both dedicated to the cause, if you like. Plus, Vera Farmiga, who plays Lorraine Warren, is just one of the best actresses on the planet, in my opinion. If you haven't seen Bates Motel, go watch that, you'll see what I mean. There's a couple of great moments in this film, one of them involving a waterbed scene with this child. I mean, it built up the suspense really well, actually. The outcome wasn't too amazing, but I will get onto that in a minute. Another one was Lorraine Warren in real trouble on this cliff edge, actually, and it was all really nicely shot and stuff. It looked great. But at the end of the day, this movie did actually fail in a lot of other departments, I'm afraid. First of all, the story wasn't really doing it for me the way it was told on screen. I mean, Ed and Lorraine Warren go off and do their own thing while Arnie Johnson sits in his cell and is scared to death a few times by a few demons that visit him or whatever. But I just think this is a missed opportunity for The Conjuring 3. We sort of were promised a bit of a courthouse drama type, going by the trailer and stuff. And I think that would have been a massive positive if it was all told through the courthouse. Now, as the jury are told what was happening, you know, the Arnie could tell about the experiences he's had along the way, and it was all just told from flashbacks, if you get me. I think that would have benefited The Conjuring 3 a hell of a lot more, but they don't switch well as the movie goes on. It just becomes very, very complex. And about the halfway point, I just really started to not care whatsoever. Now, James Wan did not return for this third outing, and I'm afraid to say that you can tell. Michael Chaves is the same director of The Curse of La Llorona. Now, I have not seen that film, so I would be unfair to base it off that movie, but I've heard it's not really great. And I must admit, after watching this, I have no interest at all in watching it. Because this isn't very well directed. Like I said, the stories don't flip very well. You know, there's one story going off over there, and one over there, and it's just a mess. But also, the jump scares here are really, really bad. I mean, I seen every single one of them coming. It felt like jump scares that we had seen a million times before. A character will think that jump scare is going to happen, it doesn't, then they turn around and there is the jump scare. It's so generic the way they are done, so cheaply made, and I hate it when movies don't get the jump scares right, because I'm not a fan of them anyway, but when they're done well, I can appreciate it. There was one moment in the movie cinema where all these teenagers just burst out laughing at this one jump scare, and I had to laugh as well, mainly because they were in hysterics, but also it was laughably bad. There was no point in this film where I was scared whatsoever. I was never creeped out. I never ever thought it was ever gonna terrify me. Apart from that waterbed scene, which I mentioned before, which was quite suspenseful, the jump scare just wasn't. So it built it up well, but that's about it. David Lynch directed a movie called Mulholland Drive about 20 years ago now, and that's not even a horror film, but there is a jump scare in that movie that just blows every single one of these in the Conjuring 3 out the water. So what does that tell you? Also, the main demon in this film, looked really bad. How can I be scared of something if it just looks terrible and fake and stupid? There's also an antagonist in this film later on, and wow, what a weak ass villain that was. One of my main glaring problems with this film, though, was actually Lorraine Warren. Not the acting or anything, the character, what is written for her. Now, I know they touch on this in the other films where she sort of gets a feel for what has happened in certain locations, or, you know, what's gone on in the murder cases and stuff. But here, they make her out to be a damn superhero. I mean, she can just touch a bit of the ground and see the whole thing, how it all played out, how everything went with this murder and stuff, where they ran to from this point. It was so stupid. I mean, it's hard enough getting on board with a film that asks you to sort of believe, if you like, in the paranormal of things that the movie's trying to convey off the screen. But when you throw this aspect in, which is totally unbelievable, I don't believe anyone in the human race of the history of the world ever could do this. It just makes it very, very pathetic. I mean, it was a terrible choice, and I just couldn't get on board with it whatsoever. Like I said, though, this film had promise, and it did. For the first 40 minutes, I was kind of invested. I was kind of enjoying where the story was going and stuff, but it just falls into that horror trap of going down the silly route, especially in the middle. Not even the third act, in the middle, it starts to get a little bit silly. And when it got to like 10 minutes towards the end, I honestly just wanted it to finish. I was bored to tears, and it became a bit of a chore to watch, I'm not gonna lie. Honestly, this did not feel like a Conjuring movie to me. It felt like one of them cheap ass horror movies that are just out there to give you a little bit of a thrill and take your money. And you know what? That's probably what it was. This is easily the weakest of the franchise for me, and it's a shame because the first two are really, really good movies, but this just didn't feel like part of that. It just felt like its own thing with the same characters. I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie now. I'm going to give The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, a 4.5 out of 10. Look, if you really want to give this a go, you may see things differently, but for me, I just felt the absence of James Wan here, and it just wasn't working for me at all. I think if James Wan was on board, he could have made this into something great. Like I said, it had promise, but unfortunately, just misses the mark, and one of my least favourite movies of 2021. Okay guys, at the end of these reviews, I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now, a fun fact for The Conjuring 3 is that the real life Lorraine Warren died of natural causes at the age of 92. But before her death, she was a head consultant on the Conjuring movies and had a big part to play and a say in what was going on, and she was a big fan of the franchise before her death. Okay guys, I hope you all enjoyed this review. If you want to subscribe, it's up to yourself. I've got a lot more reviews coming, lots more videos, and if you want to comment about The Conjuring 3 or the Conjuring franchise in general, leave it down below and I'll try and get back to every single one of you, I promise. Take it all easy guys. I'll see you in all next video.